Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm the program director at Richfield Park District. And I don't think any of the folks that are joining us live today are brand new this week. I think you've been here other days. So these will be repeat messages for you, so just bear with me. I did type in the chat window the different materials that you need for today. I'll let Alicia go over those out loud for anybody that might be tuning in later to this. I'll let folks know what they need for today. We are recording this. It's going to be posted on our YouTube channel along with some other camp activities that we're doing so that you can either access it later or your friends can access it later. You know what's up with the chat window. You're doing a great job. So keep it up. If you have questions for Alicia during the activities, feel free to type your question in there. I'll keep an eye on it too. So if she misses it, I'll pop in and ask her for you so we can answer that live. If you take pictures of your activities, please send them to me. I'll put my email address in there too, and you or your parents can send them along, and we'll share them on social media, show everybody what awesome things you're doing. Oh, you've got cat emojis. Oh my goodness.
There's cat emojis now?
So impressive. And then last thing, we'll do a Ridgeville hug. So, we can't hug each other or high five or fist bump or whatever we love to do with each other. So over Zoom, we do Ridgeville hug. So we have an R. This is the sign for R and for hug. It's a Ridgeville hug. All right. With that, I hand you over to Miss Alicia.
Well, hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia. It is great to be with all of you in this digital space. I would say see you, but can't see you right now. But it's good to know that you were there and that you were with me. I'm super excited for you to be here. So as we are finishing up Under the Sea Week, we are going to be making a coral reef drawing collage type thing. But before we get started with that, I want to make sure that you know what materials we need, and if you need to go get them, I'll give you some time to do that. So the materials that we will be needing are paper, pencil, scissors, a glue stick or liquid glue if you have it, markers. If you have some extras like colored pencils or recycled plastic or like a toilet paper roll, cardboard type of stuff, that is also welcome, as well as paint and any like painting utensils. So I'll go ahead and give you a minute or two to grab those things if you need to. Oh my gosh, yes. I agree with Natalie. Everyone is totally rocking it with these emojis today. Love it. So go ahead and take a minute to get your materials if you need to. In the meantime, I'm thinking of a fictional character. We're gonna play a quick game. And if you can guess it, some like cool, like Ridgeville, like yay points or something. So I'm thinking of a famous fish in a movie. And I'll give you a couple hints. So this fish is orange, lives in Australia. You guys are so quick to get it. It is in fact Nemo. I'm super glad. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder than it was. Okay, so I say Nemo because Nemo lives in a coral reef. And we're gonna center our kind of art project and a little bit of learning about coral reefs today. But before I get to that, and before I get to any fun facts about coral reefs, I have some pictures that I wanted to share with you that I thought were really pretty of coral reefs. And if you need me to move it closer, let me know. This is my first picture. As you can see, there's a ton of different types of plants and really colorful fish that live in coral reefs. I believe this guy right here is from Finding Nemo. Like there's a fish that looks very similar to him in Finding Nemo. If at any point today you would like me to bring these pictures back out so you can get some inspiration for our art projects, you are welcome to ask me for that. I will happily bring those back out for you. Here is a second picture of a coral reef. A lot more fish in this particular picture. You can see all the little like dark fish in the background and the very large yellow kind of clumpy plant thing in the front. And this picture is probably my favorite one. Can you spot the clownfish or the Nemo fish in here? Kind of hiding right in here, hiding in his nice little home. So some quick coral reef facts for you. So coral reefs kind of exist all over the world, right? Typically in warmer waters and warmer climates. So you'll see them off the coast of Australia, which is where the sighting of Finding Nemo takes place. That being said, they're super, super old, some of them being between 5,000 and 10,000 years old. That's a lot older than any of us, even me. And I think that's really, really cool. On the side, I also really like history, so that's like the coolest fact that I've learned recently is that coral reefs are super, super old. So, to our project today, and just a quick heads up, in case I'm going too fast or I'm speaking too fast, please, please, please let me know. I'm more than happy to go back over a step I just did, to do it again, or to show it a different way. Just let me know, I'm more than happy to do that. But here is the sample coral reef that I made. And I will show you how to make a lot of these different elements today, such as the fish and the coral, as well as how you can make some bubbles if we have some extra time. So first and foremost, there are different elements to art pieces, right? There's color, there's color theory and perspective. The cool thing with coral reefs is that they're super colorful. You can go crazy with colors. You can have all of the colors in the rainbow if you really, really wanted. But the one thing I'm going to kind of introduce to you, if you haven't seen it before, heard of it before, is something called perspective. And in artwork, we see that especially in terms of how close or far away things are from you. So there's three types of kind of perspective, being that of the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. Hi, Natalie, you have a question?
Do we have a quick question?
Yes.
If we don't have paint at home and we don't have glue at home, are there any solutions for those issues?
Yes.
Okay.
So you do not need paint. That is kind of an extra tool. You don't even need a paintbrush. If you have it, that's great. This project can be done entirely with markers. If you do not have glue at home, you can also use tape. Everything is super lightweight that we're using today, so it's super easy to just stick a little piece of tape, attach it. And if you don't have those things right away at your disposal at the minute, you are welcome to make the parts of it and then assemble it when you have the time or the tools available. It's also a super great option. So heading back to the perspective, foreground, middle ground, and background. So I'm gonna imagine that this lovely window in front of you is an art piece. Beautiful, beautiful art piece. The foreground is what is closest to you. So in this instance, the marker, because it is closer to you and closer to my screen, that would be the foreground. I would be in the middle ground because I'm kind of in the middle, sandwiched in between the foreground and the background. The background today is my lovely window. Yeah, background is my lovely window. Whoopsies. So those are some things we're going to talk about today, and I just wanted you to know about that first. So when starting with an art piece, I find that there's tons of ways you can go about this. I'm going to be starting out with a blank white piece of paper and making it colorful from there. If you happen to have construction paper and maybe coloring a lot isn't your jam, that's totally cool. You're welcome to use a colored piece of paper. It doesn't have to be blue, it's just what I happen to have on hand. But I'm going to be showing you how to do some stuff with markers. If that isn't your jam, you want to use colored paper, go for it. or you could just leave your background white, which I'll be doing for some of it. So first and foremost, our background. So with the example, this is something I learned from a friend really, really recently, is how to make a sort of water texture with markers. It's something I'm super, super excited about, and I'm really, really excited to show it with you. So for this portion, if you have different markers, that would be a great time to find any blues or greens you have if you want to do a blue and green water background. If you want to do a pink water background, more than happy and welcome to do that. But I'm going to do blue and green. If you only have one blue and one green marker, that's great. If you only have a blue marker, that's super great. I'll show you how to do this technique with as many materials as you have. So go ahead and grab those. I'm going to shift my camera, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Can everybody see my paper? I will lift it up on occasion, but can everyone see it pretty well? Okay, cool. I'm glad we can see it. So with markers, a very useful tip that has been taught to me, I'm going to tell you all about if you don't already know about it, is to start with the lightest color you have. This way you can color with the light markers and go over it with the darker ones to kind of get a cool effect without either getting dark marker onto your light colors or having the markers bleed at all. My other fun tip is if you are using kind of markers or glue in any sort of place like a table and you want to keep the table clean, to have some scrap paper available to color on top of, just in case you kind of got off the paper. Then you've got, a way to keep your table clean. So to start out with, I'm going to start with a lighter color. If you're going to use the green instead of a lighter color, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to start with a lighter blue. So I'm going to make kind of a football-like shape to start out with, or an eye shape. Those are both shapes. If you want to do a square shape, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to do a square shape on here. And basically, this is meant to start making the paper look like waves. So if you want to start with a bunch of shapes all over your paper, you can do that. Or you are welcome to just start at the beginning and work your way down. Right now it looks like I've got a really fun face going on here. So I'm going to draw a couple more shapes and maybe just some random squiggles. This is just to get some color on the paper and to give us something to color over. If you are more of the kind of like color in a big area, you're also welcome to do that. My markers are drying out a little bit, unfortunately, but you can still see my lovely patch of color here that we will go over. I think I'll add a couple more blue shapes before I add some more detail. But I'm feeling some green shapes today. So I'm going to add in some green shapes as well. I'm going to overlap my green shapes with my blue shapes a little bit, just to create some layers. We've got some shapes here. So once you are satisfied with your shapes, we're going to add a little more detail to your shapes. And we're going to do that by adding texture or designs into your shapes. So with these kind of like eyeball football type shapes, or circles if you are drawing circles, I like to add kind of a wave pattern going from one end of the football to the other. That looks kind of like this. It can be arches, it can be wave shapes. It's entirely up to you. See, I've got my little wavy type shape filled in here. I think in the next one I'm gonna do like up and down triangle type zigzags to kind of make this particular area of wave a little bit choppier. If you are the type of person who maybe likes to really take the marker and make dots, that is a fun technique called stippling, where you can add some texture with some dots. Oops, paper's fallen over. That's a fun technique. If you are stippling, I would recommend, instead of jamming your marker into the paper, just kind of gently poking it or making circles. So while you are also making fun shapes, I'm going to add some more shapes and random lines to my paper. And if you've got like an empty space, you've got this kind of empty corner right here, I'm going to go ahead and just color that in. We can always go over it with the darker color or the other blue, or whatever colors you may be using later. But I think I'm going to add some green. I personally really enjoy drawing waves. It is super relaxing, I think. So when I'm waking up in the morning, if I've got some markers just to kind of do some coloring, my perfect wake up time. And I know for a lot of you, it's super early for when you would have camp with me in the afternoon. But I know during free time, we like to do a lot of free drawing. And this is kind of similar to that. Now, I was talking earlier about scrap paper. As you can see, I'm not perfect at keeping all the marker on the paper either, and that's super okay. So good news, my table will be clean because I have paper underneath. So say you are satisfied with your shapes. You have plenty of them on there, and you're like, okay, I want to get ready to start adding some fish and other things, but I want to make it actually look more like water. My background look more like water first. That is where your darker colored marker comes in. Or if you have a purple marker, or even a red marker if you want like a red ocean, now's a great time to grab that marker. Now is the fun part, I think, where you get to take all of those fun shapes and highlight them or kind of move them into the background if you don't like them as much. So my technique for this is to maybe start with a line. I'm going to make a line under one of my footballs. So I kind of drew over the line that was already there. And from that line, I'm going to make some other lines and almost scribbles here. So I made some bigger lines and then I just colored in other lines. Oh, now you can see that better. I'm going to add a line over here next and some darker color lines to kind of make it look like the water is flowing. All of your darker lines don't have to go in the same direction. They can even go over what you already have on the paper. It's just the mix of the first color and the second color is going to add a fun wave effect. And if you find a line that you look back on, you're like, maybe I want to add to it, finish it off, go ahead and do that. I added to these lines here to make the wave more convincing. Gonna add some choppy waves. And now's a great time also to add in some other random shapes if you want. I'm adding in some triangles to my paint, or not my painting, but my drawing. And I will show you that momentarily. So I have added some triangle-like shapes to my water. And right now it looks like my water is all flowing this way, which is totally cool. If your water is flowing up and down, that works great as well. Or left to right, right to left. Art is all about trying new things and finding new patterns and way of doing things. So if your waves are going all over the paper, that's great. That means you've got one cool body of water going. Now, if you get bored of lines, again, you can take your marker and just color in portions of it. Yeah, it's a good way to hide lines. If you say you don't really like a particular line, to either hide it or make something else the focal point of it. So here I've got a design kind of in my upper part. But I really kind of like the design that's going on in the middle with the light blue and the green. So I might add in some more of the darker blue in the lower part of the drawing. And let's say you're feeling really adventurous and you want to introduce a brand new color. You are also welcome to do that. I'm feeling really brave right now. I'm going to introduce some purple. And I think I'm going to do that by adding some kind of rainbow-like shapes around those dots I had near the bottom of the painting, drawing rather. So I've got some rainbow type shapes in there. And maybe these shapes in the background, maybe it's some water, maybe it's fish in the background. It's entirely up to your imagination. If you want to add a big fish in the background, you can also do that. I think that's what I'm feeling today. I'm going to add a giant fish. And there are tons of ways to make fish. If you want to draw it in pencil first, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to make a kind of round shape and have two kind of triangle shapes coming off the end of this fish. So let's try this. Here is my round shape, roundish shape. And I'm going to add kind of triangle shape. For one fin, and another kind of triangle shape for a second fin. And I think I'm going to make this particular fish all this kind of red color. And if you don't like the shape of the fins, or maybe you don't want this kind of empty space in there where your triangle shapes touch, you can always just color that in. I'm going to color it in. Now we've got a nice tail fin. Now, because I am making this fish all red, I'm worried I'm going to lose the kind of white background for where I think his eye should be. So I'm going to kind of think about that in advance. Draw a circle, and I'm just going to remember not to color in that circle. So I'm going to color every bit but that circle. It looks like a very happy fish. In fact, I think I'm going to add a smiley face at the end. If you want to dress up any of the fish or sea plants that we add in our coral reef drawing today, you're welcome to do that. Maybe my fish will have a top hat. That might be kind of fun. As you can see, we've got our red fish and our nice white looking eyeball. I'm gonna add in a little pupil with my black marker so he can see you better. And I think I'm actually going to add a top hat. I liked that idea. So now this fish is officially the fanciest fish in my ocean. You're welcome to share any stories you have about any of the fishes or other sea life you add in your drawing. Here's my fancy surfish. Maybe he gets a monocle. Maybe I'm gonna make him a glasses-like shape too. Here is my fancy Mr. Fish. Now, I still have some kind of extra space down here. And yes, he is officially, I love the pun, officially Mr. Fish. If you met me before in person, you will know that I very much love puns. So if you have any sea-related puns, lay them on me. I will officially love them. I'm glad you like it, Natalie. I also think it's cute. He so far is my favorite part. Anyway, if, say, you've got some empty space, you don't feel like coloring in the paper, you can also add in some other elements to the drawing. Now, with the concept of foreground, middle ground, and background, anything that's kind of going to be in the background is going to be smaller or not seen as much. So maybe I want to add in some tiny little fishies that are very small that we might see in the end. And you can give the illusion of tiny fishies by drawing a circle or an oval shape like this. And then just attaching a triangle. Now I've got some fish swimming in the background. If you want to make an octopus, you can make a sort of circle-y shape that I've got here. Here's the start of my octopus or jellyfish if you want to make it. And just add some squiggles coming off. Some happy squiggles. That'll give the illusion of an octopus. And even if we hide him later, he will still be a pretty happy octopus. There is my octopus jellyfish thing. Fish. Oh my gosh, Griffin and Addie found a way to make a fish emoji, it looks like, and I absolutely love it. I love our new fish friend in the chat. Okay. So I think I'm done. Yes, fish emojis. I love these fish emojis. I think I'm done with my background. And I am going to go on to the next step. So Emily asks, how do you know? How do I know it's a fish? Just to me, like, because a fish looks to me kind of like a circle and like a 3 attached. That's another great way of adding a fish. So like, if here was my O circle shape and a number 3 attached to the O shape, it looks like a fish. In fact, I'm going to add in a little eyeball and a smiley face. And maybe like a kind of triangle fin at the top. So I've kind of added to our fish concept. I'm going to color him in. He is now officially part of our fish parade in the background. Okay, our next step. I'm going to lay our background to the side for a minute. And we're going to find some paper. It can be white paper. If you've got color paper, that's great. I'm going to use some scrap white paper that I have lying around right here to make some coral. Now, if you've got color paper or construction paper, you're welcome to just go wild, cut some shapes for coral. But right now, all I have is white paper. So I'm gonna make my own coral. Now, the cool thing about sea life in a coral reef is that not only is it really colorful, it is also super all over the place in terms of shape. So if what speaks to you and making coral for your coral reef is to do lots of noodle-like squiggles, make some noodle-like squiggles. I'm gonna take my pencil, and if you wanna use a marker or colored pencil, you're welcome to do that too. I'm gonna take my pencil and draw a sort of noodle squiggle shape. So I've kind of got, you can see that, part of a line here that I'm going to make a sort of noodle shape with, or a tube shape if you're thinking in a third dimension. Here is my first noodle squiggly shape. I think this noodle shape is a little lonely, so I'm gonna add in another squiggle shape and connect it. And if you want to add more squiggle shapes, you're welcome to add more squiggle shapes. Or if you want it to be a very tall, like coral body at the bottom, you can add some squiggles and finish off your lines however way you see fit. But this is going to be the first coral that I'm going to color in. Now, there's tons of different ways you can color this in. You can either color it before you cut it out, or cut it out and then color it. I'm going to color first. So I really enjoy coloring, and I'm in a very big coloring mood today. So since I think coral is super colorful, I might pick a yellow color to do first. So I'm going to color this entire coral yellow first, and then add some other colors after that. If you want to do some red coral or whatever color you want to do is great. I'm going to go with yellow first. I'm going to color my whole coral shape yellow. Now, I will say we might not have time to do like 1,000,001 coral today, but if coral is something that really speaks to you and going forward, you want to make a bunch of coral to add to your coral reef, go for it. I'm going to show you how to make other types of plant life to go in your coral reef drawing, as well as like how to make a cool fish. If those things don't necessarily interest you as much, you can listen and keep working on your coral, or if you're still working on your background, you are welcome to stay working on your background. There's tons of elements to add to your drawing, and just like many things in life, art is super personal. So if doing fish and top hat speaks to you, or fish in a tiara, go with fish. Or if you want to make your coral reef or your coral have smiley faces, or make them look like different shapes or people that maybe are different than mine, you're welcome to do that. This is all part of the fun art journey, and what you'll find at the end of it is something that's super personalized to you and kind of speaks something about you. So like, here's my yellow coral. It's matching my kind of sunny mood today. Oh, the circle with the kind of like carrot shape does look kind of like a duck. I love that. And I know that Arden really likes ducks, so I'm glad there is now an emoji to match the ducks. That makes me really happy. So I'm mostly through this yellow, and I'm thinking this coral piece needs something a little bit different. I feel like it could use a different color. I think I'm gonna pick a different color now, a different color marker. I've got green markers, I've got orange markers. I'm gonna use this red marker. Yes, I've got an orange marker. I've got some different color markers with me today. But for now, I'm going to take, oh, I wish I really had a real orange, Natalie, or some orange juice. That would be great right now since it's so early still. But in the meantime, I'm going to take my red marker, and I think I'm going to add some color, like a secondary color to this coral. I think that might be a fun way to continue. You'll have to tell me what you think when I'm done with it. Do, 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 do. This piece of coral is now reminding me of like a pizza, kind of with the red and yellow colors. So maybe we have a pizza coral. Get it? Pizza coral. I hope you like my jokes. Okay. If you hear any fun fire siren noises coming up, I'm going to apologize in advance. Sometimes we get sirens, fire trucks driving past my house. That happens on occasion. I apologize in advance. I'm glad you enjoy it, Emily, even if it's not the funniest thing you have ever heard. Okay. So here is my pizza coral, but I still think it's missing something. And I'm gonna add some texture, I think, to my coral. Now you can do tons of different things to add texture to your coral or detail. I think I'm going to add some stippling or just dots first in the yellow parts. I feel like that would make this more exciting. If you want to add hearts or other squiggles to your coral, you're welcome to do that. I'm feeling dots so far. Put some dots. If your dots end up being more of a blotch or a little circle, that is a-okay too. So here are my lovely little dots. And I might take a darker color marker and add some to my other piece as well. Now I've got dots all over, and I've got my first piece of coral done. So the next step, if you've got a piece of coral on a separate piece of paper, go ahead and cut it out. That's where your scissors come in. Now, it's super easy if you're using safety scissors. If you're using like bigger, sharper scissors, please be careful with them. If you end up needing an adult or older person to help you cut out your shapes, that is super cool as well. I know when I was making my sample, I was having some big trouble cutting out some of the pieces. So I had to tackle it from a different way. Like it looks like I've got a piece that I might have some trouble cutting out in here because it's like a super tiny cutting space. So I'm actually going to just cut out everything around it first and go back and snip those tiny bits after the fact. Just so there's less paper to deal with. Now I know that I've shared a couple coral reef facts already, but if you happen to know any coral reef facts, you know, either where they're located or some of the names of the big ones, let me know in the chat. I would love to know all of your coral reef facts if you have any. And just a side note on scrap pieces of paper. So see how I kind of cut my piece out already, and now I've got this scrap piece of paper. I like to keep some of the bigger pieces like this because I can use them again. So I can use this piece to cut out some bubbles to add to my drawing in a minute. But that is my little spiel on scrap paper. Sometimes it can be super useful to use again. And we're saving materials, which is always great because that means we have more stuff to create with. Keep cutting. And just to look ahead, we are going to be needing something to attach our first piece of coral to our background. But if you don't have either tape or glue or something of the sort, maybe even a stapler, at the very moment, you can always put it to the side for now and attach things later. That is also super okay. If you really wanted, say you don't have, tape or glue available to you at this very, very moment, you can use your pieces of paper as kind of like puppets on your background and then have a puppet show with your coral or your fish that we'll make later. So here is my finished cut out first piece of coral. And looking at it, it looks great. I think it looks great, but I still think it's missing something. I think I might add a little bit of shading to this. Now you can add shading in a ton of different ways, either with a marker. I have a colored pencil here. I've got a blue colored pencil here. I might experiment with adding some shading. But I might also use, you could use your pencil to shade. Go in, add some shadowy parts with just a normal gray pencil. That is also super cool if you want to add in some shading this way. To shade, I just kind of did some small lines on one part of it. That adds some depth to your piece. So I might do that for this. I'm going to add some shading in normal pencil on one side, and I might use colored pencil on the other side. That sounds like a fun thing. If you want to shade in markers, you're welcome. With markers, you're welcome to do that, or with whatever materials you have on hand. And you're welcome to do whatever kind of shading. I know some people like to do cross hatching, which is like drawing lots of tic-tac-toe grids in your art piece. Some people like to do that for shading. I'm just going to do some lines on one side. And if I make some longer lines, it looks like there's more shadow there, or like different shapes. So here I added on this little piece, I added some longer lines to make it look like the shape of the coral is kind of wonky, even though I've already colored it. Okay. Add some shading here. If you happen to be using like a color pencil or another writing utensil, another super fun way of shading is just by making some squiggles or light circles with your coral. Just doing a small circular motion will add a cool effect over the marker. You can also do this with marker as well. Just the more layering you do with your marker or whatever drawing tool you're using, the more interesting your shape in your coral is going to be. And I think that's really exciting. That's why I love markers. They're such a versatile tool. Okay, so I've got some squiggles all over my coral piece. and some shading. So now I think this coral is ready to go on there. Now, if we think back to one of our coral pictures, you'll see that coral seems to grow from like the ground up, but it also kind of goes all over the place. There's coral pieces that are going to the left, to the right, going up. I've even seen some coral that kind of grows in an arch, so it looks like it's hanging down into the picture. So if you've got some coral and you really want to hang it upside down, go for it. This would be a really cool coral picture, I think. But I'm really feeling, I'm feeling putting my coral on an angle. You're welcome to put it straight up and down like this. But just know that you might end up covering up some parts of whatever you've already drawn on your paper. And if you're okay with covering it up, that's super great. If not, you can leave it, maybe move it somewhere else. Maybe I only want to see, you know, Mr. Fish's head, so I'll put my coral over here. Or maybe I like Mr. Fish, and maybe I'm deciding I don't like our little circle fish here. Maybe I'll cover him up, or maybe we'll see a little bit of him. Or maybe, which I think I might do, is kind of have it on an angle and have the coral off the paper a bit. That sounds kind of fun. So now I'm going to take whatever gluing or sticking material you have, be that glue, tape, stapler, whatever you have with you. I'm going to put some glue onto our piece. Now, an art teacher of mine once told me this really cool trick, or gluing trick rather, that has stuck with me. And it's put the glue on a little piece. So this is our big piece, here's our little piece. Put the glue on the little piece, that way you save some glue. And also you get to have a little more control of where things go. Because in case if your little piece falls, you can always pick it up and move it. It doesn't stick right away. Okay, I think this is nice and glued for now. And I'm going to put this on here on an angle for fun and stick him down. Here is my paper sticking. Here is my first piece of coral on my drawing. So our coral reefs are starting to come along a little bit, but I'm going to add to it. And there's different ways you can do it. I'm going to make a really quick fish and then show you how to make a sort of 3D plant in the time we have left. So for a fish, to draw a quick fish, I like to use football shapes. So, or an eyeball shape if you call it an eyeball shape. So the way that I did some of my fish in my earlier example I showed you was to draw a football shape first. So here is one football shape. And then draw football shapes overlapping it. So now I've got two football shapes. I've got the first one I drew and the second one here that is going to eventually be part of my tail. The cool thing about drawing and about life in general is that you can make it all into shapes. Everything is shapes. So now I've got three football-like shapes together on my piece of paper, and I've got the start of a fish thing. It's missing some fins though. I'm gonna add another football shape at the top, kind of on an angle, to give a top fin, or what looks like it'll be a top fin. And I think I'm gonna add the same thing, same football shape on the bottom. So now we've just about got a fish, just using one shape. Now, if you've done this in pencil, you can erase whatever parts of the football that you've drawn, footballs that you've drawn, just to make it go away. If you've drawn it in marker, you can just flip your paper over and color the other side. Right now, I'm going through and erasing all of the lines that I don't want in my drawing. You still might be able to see them a little bit, but that's okay. You can color it over with whatever item or whatever coloring utensil you choose. But I've erased some of my football lines, but now I have a fish shape. You can color away. I think I'm going to make a green fish or a two-tone fish, but you needed an eye first. Here's my fishy. My fish is getting a smiley face. And I'm going to add some green to my fish. Now, the one thing I enjoy about fish is they're just so diverse or different. Like, there's so many different types of fish and different types of fish colors. So, yeah, I mean, maybe do like a green and blue fish. If you want to make a red striped fish, really cool. Probably based on a fish in real life. But I'm feeling some two-tone fish action. Okay. So here is my two-tone fish body. I also enjoy when we play games, Rosa and Oscar. Maybe for next week, I'll try to find some fun games we can play through Zoom. That might be fun. Maybe like 20 questions might be a fun one. Well, maybe we can play some animal themed 20 questions next week. I will look into that. So I will save the cutting out of this fishy friend for later, just so I can show you. Maybe my finished fishy friend. My last technique for making some coral. Now this works best, I'd say, if you maybe have some leftover construction paper or other paper, but I've got white paper, so I'm going to quickly scribble over it, just as an example. Just add some color in case you don't have color paper. Oops, it's flying away on me. Okay, my last technique is once you have some paper that's colored or white, totally fine, is to cut a random shape out of it. I'm going to go with a kind of cloud-like shape, just for sake of example. We've got our cloud-like shape here. I'm just going to go ahead and make little cuts, not across the whole thing, but just a little bit into it so I can make some ruffles. Now, if you're using a smaller piece, it might be a good idea to get an adult or older person to help you with it, just so you don't accidentally hurt yourself, because that would be very unfortunate. We don't want that to happen. But I took my singular piece and added some ruffles. Now I've got this nice, fun, ruffly texture going on. You can see my face now. Now you can either crumple up these ruffles to add some texture to your piece, or you can leave them straight. I'm going to ruffle mine a little bit, kind of make them kind of curly. And if you want to layer them, you're welcome to layer them. So that what that would look like would be to like take multiple ruffle pieces and lay them on top of each other to create a sort of layered effect. So that's what I did here when I had some colored paper. I took several layers of cloud-shaped ruffles and glued them on top of each other to create a sort of layery effect. Now, hi.
Hey, that looks so cool.
Oh, there's a truck.
It looks really, really good. We're at about time to wrap up.
Yeah.
So just wanted to pop back in and I'll let Alicia wrap up with everybody. If everybody wants to send pictures of what you made today, please do it. I can't wait to see them. Alicia can't wait to see
Very
them.
excited.
What a cool project. So I'm going to put my email in that chat window again. And I would love to see what you guys have done. And I'll let Alicia say goodbye to everybody.
Cool. Now, before I say goodbye, if you do have any recycled materials, also super great to use. You can cut up like a toilet paper roll to add or a part of a chip bag to add some bun coral. I didn't get to show you that today, unfortunately, but maybe a thing for next time or something for you to experiment with. I would love to see what you come up with your recycled materials if you have them. But that being said, it's been super great spending time with you today and being able to craft with you and do some art with you. I know it's unfortunate and a little sad that I can't be with you in person, but I have enjoyed this time. I'm super excited to see you all or be with you virtually next week. So next week it looks like we have an animal week going on. With me, we'll be making our own animals and discussing why some animals have eyes at the front of their head versus the side of their head. So that's a cool thing to look forward to. And I believe next week on Monday, we start off with Miss V making some animal crafts. So thanks again for being here. I will see you all next week. I cannot hug you in person, so here's my Ridgeville hug. Put it over my heart. Make a circle if you want to do it with me. I'll happily see you all next week. Bye. So